Okay, sorry everyone. That was a mistake. Learners, what do they call that? When you're learning something, hit the wrong button, blow up the world. Anyway, at least the world didn't blow up. Sorry about that. Okay. So we're going to discuss this verse. Neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yasoda. So Mother Yasoda received so much mercy, nobody can achieve mercy like that. So, as I said, we left Krishna bound. So it was kind of a new experience for him. This was the first time. He's 3 years old. It's the first time it happened. So now he's like, what's going on here? What do I do now? Being bound and shackled was a new experience. And at first, Krishna did not like it. He tested the rope around his belly. The tight knot held fast. He pulled the mortar, it would not budge. So he's like, okay, now I'm bound, so what's going on? So he's like pulling it, is this actually strong? Can I get free? And he's pulling, seeing how heavy the mortar is, can I actually pull this mortar? It's like, analyzing, checking out the situation. Yeah, something like that. Okay, let me hit another button. Oh, I can invite friends. Wow, I can just go down and invite people. Wow, that's fun. I'm just going to invite everybody. Well, there may be no class tonight because I'm inviting them. Well, actually, the top of the list is the people that I talk to the most. This is interesting. I'm having fun. I'm like a little kid, Who knows? Maybe they'll all decide. Okay. All right, that's good for now. Okay, sorry everyone, I pressed the wrong button when we're back. Okay. So, Krishna's tied up, he's checking the rope, checking the mortar. What's he going to do? Do little boys like to be tied up? No. Frustrated at his predicament, Krishna's eyes welled with tears. Seeing this, the monkeys became increasingly excited, and his friends lovingly tried to console him. And while the diverse residents of the universe felt for Krishna's plight, the demigods are watching this. Can you imagine being a demigod? You can see these leelas. They're like, somehow or other, they come down, they hover, I don't know how they actually do it, they come down and they see the leelas. They're so fortunate. So the demigods are watching this and they're discussing what's going on here. Krishna's friends are consoling him. The monkeys are looking at it because he was feeding the monkeys butter, and the monkeys are looking at it thinking, whoa, it's like we feel bad for him. And the demigods are, this is amazing, he's just been tied up. And now Krishna's crying. So, it's said here that, of course, nobody can see Krishna, no ordinary person can see Krishna's pastimes, but now he's letting all the demigods see it. So it's like he wants everyone to know what's going on, because he's advertising this amazing love of Yasoda, and he wants everyone to see the Leela. So he's opening, like Lord Chaitanya opened the floodgates, and he's opening the floodgates here, so everybody can see the Leela. That's amazing, huh? Krishna's facial features bloom like a lotus. Although he was in distress, Being the very essence of bliss, his visage, his face, removed everyone's distress. So it's like now he's in distress, but everyone seeing him is freed from distress, seeing his distress, because he's so beautiful. You know, like when he would steal butter, and they would complain about him, but then they would look at his face and they'd stop complaining. You can't imagine how attractive Krishna is. Right? Well, someday we'll know, someday we'll see. But we can only guess that he's so attractive that any anxiety, any unhappiness you have, you're freed from it. Just like when we saw Prabhupada. It didn't matter what we were feeling a minute before that, when we saw him, we were happy. Just immediately. Just blissful. Yes? Right? You imagine seeing Prabhupada? You think you'd be happy? Wow, amazing. I think that's one of the most amazing experiences of my life, that I saw Prabhupada. Just like, they say 1/12 of a second is all you need to see a pure devotee, and then your life can change 1/12, just like that. Right? So seeing Prabhupada, if you're open to it, it's so powerful that some people saw Prabhupada and became devotees on the spot. They just saw him and surrendered. They didn't even know what Krishna consciousness was. Because some devotees actually paid dandavats. They didn't know why. They saw Prabhupada and they just went down. That his presence is so powerful. Yes. If Prabhupada would smile, if Prabhupada would laugh, in the whole room, it would light up. And it's like the Manjaris. Whatever Radharani feels, they feel. So they don't even have to directly engage with Krishna. If they help Radharani engage with Krishna, they'll feel what she feels. So they don't have a need to directly engage. So it's almost like whatever Prabhupada was feeling, he was gracing everybody, and we could feel it also. So if we heard a Lila and Prabhupada laughed, or whatever, we would feel the bliss that he was feeling. Maybe not to that degree, of course, but even we're not qualified, we would feel it. Yes. So now everyone's looking at Krishna's distress face, and his distress face is relieving their distress. Interesting, isn't it? Of course, there's no God can't be in distress. That's not possible. But transcendentally, he was distressed because obviously he's a little boy and he's tied up, so he's distressed. Right? His deep blue hair flowered like glossy waters of the Jamuna, shimmering red like the vermilion from the gopi's breast, or with the glow of his passionate disposition, or with the pollen of red lotuses. So just describing Krishna's beauty. His hair shimmering like the Jamuna. So, some boys tried to ease Krishna's embarrassment by offering him a snack. Friend, would you like me to ask my mother to get you something to eat? Because they realized that Krishna hasn't eaten in 12 hours. And they're friends. So what does Krishna say? He says, your mothers are here. So they're saying, should I go home and ask my mother? And Krishna said, what's the point? Your mother's here. He said, just go home. So he told him, just go home and get whatever you can get, because I'm hungry. So get the yogurt, the butter, whatever. So, isn't it interesting? You know, Krishna has different kinds of friends. Some respect him as an elder. Some are equal. And some are older, like older brothers and friends. So the older ones are a little more paternal. Some of them are more like in the mood of servant. It's friendship in the mood of servant. And some of them are friends, equals. So obviously this must be more of the friends who are like the older brothers, paternals. He must be hungry. I always tell this funny story where once I cut my finger and it was bleeding. And I was walking around with blood dripping, thinking, well, what am I going to do about this blood? And in like a minute, 4 women came up and said, can I do anything? And, there were a lot of men that walked by, and they didn't say anything. So it's the maternal nature to, like, when there's sickness or disease, do something, right? So Krishna's friends, the older friends, most likely, are worried about him. Go home, get everything, bring sweets. What does Krishna say? Whatever, butter, yogurt, or sweets, bring it. And so they went, they got everything from their house, and they came back. And then Krishna ate. And the mortar that he was tied to, that was the table. That was their dining table. So they had their feast on the mortar. Now, they start having fun. Now they solve the problem of eating. So then it's like, well, let's see if we can move this mortar, because boys are like that, right? Boys are mischievous. So I'm tied to the mortar. Well, I don't just want to sit here. Let's see if we can move it. So let's test it out how heavy it is. So they start pushing it a little bit, and they find they can move it a little bit. They're rocking it back and forth. And then it was kind of going downhill. So then they started rocking it and downhill, and they see they could move it a little bit. So I was like, okay, this is good. We can move this. So it says here, they were playing a game. Who could guess what the game was called? I'll give you a hint. Pull the mortar. Pull the mortar. So they created a game. Pull the mortar. You know mortar? The mortar is what Krishna was tied to. Krishna thought of dragging the mortar to a more open space. And he soon discovered that when he pulled downhill, the mortar was naturally easier to move. Seeing Krishna's success, the boys laughed and clapped. Well done, good, good. They're having fun now. Kind of like getting back at Yasoda now. She tied me up, but she didn't really tie me up. So what Krishna did, he went like this. He made a funny face, then he went like this, because they started moving, and he went like this. Flapping his arms, like I'm strong. Look at us, so they're having fun. We can move the mortar, so this is fun. Right? Now, here's the other interesting thing. The mortar is actually a person. And Yasoda has tied Krishna to the mortar, so Yasoda doesn't want Krishna to move, but Krishna wants the mortar to move, and the mortar's thinking, what am I supposed to do? Isn't that interesting? The mortar is actually a person. It's amazing. That everything is engaged in the pastime. Right? Or like the rope was cooperating because Krishna wouldn't let the rope tie him up. So everything is conscious. That the pot, when Krishna broke the pot, that was pot of yogurt, that was Mother Yasoda's pot. And so the pot's thinking, what am I supposed to do now? That's the pot she churns her yogurt in, but Krishna wants me to break it. So I have to surrender. So the pot just broke in half. Right? Is that interesting? Isn't it? So now, the pot's in a quandary. What should I do? The mortar's in a quandary. Should I move or should I not move? What do you think? Well, you know what happened. Surrender to Krishna's will. The mortar had little choice because Krishna had discovered a new sport that he was intent on playing. To the applause of his friends, Krishna slowly dragged the mortar here and there, occasionally sitting down to catch his breath. So now they're actually moving it around. So then Krishna was thinking, by this pastime, I have made three things known. I have come under the control of my devotee, number one, the eminence of my mother, and the power of spontaneous love for me. So, in this Leela, Krishna allowed himself to be bound, which means he was controlled by his mother. Right? Because you can't bind Krishna unless he says, okay. Right? It's not possible. It took her 12 hours. She couldn't bind him until he said, okay, you can bind me. He glorifies his mother for her love, and then he also glorifies spontaneous love, which is the love that Brajbasis have, that how much better or greater is the love of the residents of Braja than love in awe and reverence. So he's glorifying all three of these by this pastime. The glory of spontaneous love is that it gives Krishna the most pleasure. And just see how much pleasure Jasoda is giving Krishna by tying him up. He looked distressed, but it was great pleasure. And why was it pleasure? Because what did she tie him up with? Not with ropes, but with love. So even though he's being tied apparently with ropes, he's being tied with love, so that gives him great pleasure. Right? Like sometimes maybe two friends will meet and they like to wrestle, so they'll start wrestling, two boys, but they're hurting one another maybe, but it's great pleasure for them. So, because you feel that affection. So, the distress that Krishna is showing is to enhance the Leela. So it's just making the pastime sweeter. So his distress, is it really distress? He's showing distress. Yes, he was distressed, but at the same time, it was calculated distress, because that distress would help the pastime. You understand? Can you explain it to him? Just like, if I want to bring out your affection, then I might pretend that I banged my toe, because then I know you'll come and do something to help me. Oh, my toe! And what can I do? So then the relationship gets closer. There's I once read this. I don't know how this came across to me, but I once read there are dating techniques in the Kama Sutra, and one dating technique is you call your girlfriend or the girl that you want to court, and you say you're sick, and only your cooking will help cure me. So you understand that? Something? Like a boy is in love with you, and he calls you. He says, "I'm sick, and you must come immediately to my house, because only if I see you will I get better." So Krishna pretends to be distressed, so the relationship between Krishna and Mother Yasoda becomes closer. Yeah? That's okay? Okay. By knowing these truths, those devotees who aspire for the ultimate perfection will know both the means for and the end of that attainment. Hare Krishna. This is just what the whole point of Krishna consciousness is, to become attracted to Krishna. Right? That's the whole point. You understand? One thing we're trying to achieve, become attracted to Krishna. That's all. And so we're trying to love Krishna. That's the whole thing. And you love somebody by hearing about them, right? I mean, in the material world, you just have to see a picture, and then you think you're in love. Well, if you saw Krishna, you'd probably think also you're in love. But Oh my God. What is it? Medicine?
It's okay.
It's a little bitter, but it's okay. It's good for me. We're supposed to become so attracted to these pastimes that we become detached from everything. Compared to this, there's nothing sweet in this world. That's the idea of hearing. So now the birds come. Of course, this is a story. The birds come, and they're saying, Mother Yasoda is so fortunate. What did Mother Yasoda do to get this position as mother? And you can't do anything. Either you're Krishna's mother or you're not. Nobody can be Mother Yasoda. Mother Yasoda is an eternal position. Like there are many, many gopis, but you can't be one of the principal 8 gopis. That's already taken. So they're discussing this, and they're saying she didn't do anything. It's not like she had to do an austerity to become a gopi or to become Krishna's mother. Krishna's mother is always Krishna's mother. That's always her position. She's always fortunate. So then you might say, but what if I want to serve Krishna in the Vatsalya Rasa? That's fine, but you won't become Krishna's mother. Just like there are many elderly gopis. They're not Krishna's mother. They're just in the fraternal rasa. There's only one mother, and one father. Right? So they're having this discussion. How much mercy has she received? So they're discussing, has anyone achieved such mercy as Mother Yasoda? No one. Special liberation, vimukti, that Yasoda enjoys, has eluded Brahma, Rudra, and even Lakshmi. That's the verse we're reading. I'll read the verse again. This is from the Bhagavatam. 10:9:20. Neither Brahma, Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yasoda. So, so now there's 2 conceptions. This is interesting. Krishna is mine, or I am Krishna's. You understand? All right, let's give an example. You, let's say you're Krishna. So, Krishna's mine, or I am Krishna's. I am yours, or you are mine. Either you possess me, or I possess you. There's two different, and one is higher than the other. I possess you, or you possess me. You possess me. Think that's higher than I possess you?
If I'm Krishna,
Having taken shelter of the Lord, Lakshmi Devi's conception is that she belongs to him. She is Tadiya. Her knowledge of his opulence overshadows the more intimate conception, which Krishna belongs to me. The highest conception, we had it backwards. The highest conception is Krishna is mine. He belongs to me. That's a symptom. That in different stages of Krishna consciousness, you get to this stage. I think in Bhava this happens. You get to this stage. Krishna belongs to me. He's mine. So that's, there's more intimacy in that. Krishna's mine, and then it's all Anyway, you can meditate on that. Krishna's mind. If you can't imitate that, you can meditate on. That's a higher stage. I am Krishna's. Then it evolves to Krishna's mind. It's called mamata. You can look it up. Mamata. Krishna's mind. It's a high. It evolves, I believe, in the stage of Baba. You start thinking like that. Jasoda Devi is unaware of Krishna's greatness, and she thinks, I am my child's only shelter. Only my efforts can secure his welfare. Her exclusive frame of mind is that Krishna belongs to her. Just like sometimes Prabhupada would say, the Christians pray, God, give us our daily bread. Please, God, give us our daily bread. And Jasoda thinks, if I don't feed Krishna, he'll starve. See the difference? Krishna's mine, I have to take care of him. Krishna's my friend, he's my lover, he's my son. Not God, he's just my friend. That's all. That's very intense. Yes? You can't imitate it, but you understand that's where we're going. That's the goal. It's like one example is given of Krishna's friends. They'll eat something, and when it tastes good, they'll say, this is really good, here, have some, after eating it. Right? Would you do that when you're cooking for the deities? Just let me taste this, see if it's good. Oh, this is good. You know? I'll just put my cup on Krishna's plate. Can't do that, right? But devotional service, the mood of the residents of Braja, comes to that position where you become so intimately connected with Krishna that you could do that, or you could punish him. You could get mad at him. This concept is unknown in the world, isn't it? Completely unknown. Nobody understands this. I was telling this story a few weeks ago that one of the devotees that was working with Prabhupada in the BBT had heard from Prabhupada that Prabhupada became inspired in 1970 to translate the Krishna book. And his idea was that no one in the world knows what God is. They have no understanding of this aspect of God, and we have to get this book out to the world. So I'm going to stop my other translation work, and I'm going to do this, Krishna book. So it's the only book, really it's the only book about God that exists. Nobody knows about God. Right? Interesting, huh? We have to get this book out. And then when I read the book, I wrote Prabhupada a letter. I was temple president, so I had to write a letter every month. And I wrote a letter, and in that letter I said, Srila Prabhupada, I read the Krishna book, and I realized nobody knows what God is. The very reason for which he wrote the book was the realization I got when I read it. And Prabhupada wrote back and said, that is a fact. We're the only ones explaining what is God. And it's you know, you would think the movement that knows the only ones who know what God is would be more popular than it is, but it shows that people don't really care that much, isn't it? I know that he exists, and, you know, I can pray to him, and that's good enough for me. But when you know who he is, that's when your affection really develops, right? The more you get to know somebody, the more you can love them. There's a song, when I was young, and the lyrics were to know you is to love, love, love you. Something like that. You've heard that song? To know you. You know that? No. To know you is to love, love, love you. To know, yeah, that's a long time. That's like 50 years, before the Beatles, I think. Yeah. Mother Yasoda controls Krishna, his entire body and his entire being. In either case, from the perspective of mellows, Lakshmi cannot relish the same mercy as Yasoda. Although she is predominantly in the mood of friendship, higher than Brahma and Shiva's moods of servitorship, above her is Yasoda. Lakshmi, they don't have a conjugal relationship. It's actually friendship. Did you know that? The Lakshmis in awe and reverence, it's friendship, it's not conjugal. I mean, they're married, but it's not considered conjugal in the sense of the gopis. So, therefore, this verse said, Brahma, Shiva, and Lakshmi cannot have the relationship that Yasoda has. So Lakshmi only up to friendship, and Yasoda is mother. And that friendship is with reverence. So. The love Lakshmi has is less, and therefore the mercy she gets is less. Okay. So, what's going on in this chapter is basically, it's a discussion about the mercy that Yasoda, the special position of Yasoda, her glories, and the mercy that she's receiving. And then, in the next chapter, the Nalakuvera Manigriva pastime comes up, and there's lots of philosophy in that chapter about why Narada Muni decided to curse them and also bless them. So we're just going to discuss a little more about Yasoda's mercy. I wanted to read this. This is very nice. The boy's parents worried that their children had no appetite at home. The only way to persuade them to eat was by setting a seat for Krishna and saying, "Look, my beloved Krishna has come to our house for supper. Now both of you eat together heartedly." Isn't that interesting? The boys would be with Krishna all day. I mean, if you're a cowherd boy, you get to be with Krishna all day. And if you're a gopi, yeah, you can hang around a little bit, but the cowherd boys, sometimes the gopis think, I want to be like a cowherd boy because they're with Krishna. So they're with Krishna all day, and then they come home and their mothers feed them and they're not hungry because they're separated from Krishna. They don't want to eat. You imagine how much love that is. I mean, we don't have that kind of love for friends, I don't think. Do we? Do you ever lose your appetite when you're not with a friend? Amazing. Sringarvat's saying it's hard to be detached. Actually, to go over. Actually, you don't have to try to be detached. You just have to love Krishna. And then you'll be detached. It's like anything in this world. You get something better, the other thing, it's not interesting anymore. So, there's no, our whole philosophy is there's no possible way to be detached. You can't, you can try. I was reading yesterday something really nice that Prabhupada said. It's something that I've been saying a lot in the last few months. And Prabhupada said, the stage of bhajana kriya, that's the stage where determination is most needed. Because bhajana kriya is where you don't really have much taste. It's what we call in English, put your nose to the grindstone. Just, you understand? Just, Hare Krishna, Krishna. You just have to be determined, right? But when you get to higher stages, then you get taste. So on the lower stages, you're practicing detachment even though you don't have it. You're living a detached life even though you don't have it. I just saw something really interesting. I haven't been able to sleep the last few nights till like 1 or 2 in the morning. So I was working on something. I was editing some of the videos, and it takes time to download. So in between the downloads, it takes 5 minutes, I was watching a video, and it was a video of 4 young girls becoming nuns. It was a reality TV show of what they were going through. They're all beautiful young girls just out of college, and they're moving into a convent. And life in a convent as a nun is much different than life in university. Much different. So they're going through all these adjustments, and it's really, really difficult for them. And the whole time I'm watching that, I'm thinking, there's no prasadam. There's no kirtan. There's no parikrama. There's no nectaring classes. How can they do this? This is like terrible. It's so hard. And one of the senior nuns was being interviewed, and she said, it's so hard for 38 women to live together. And they have really nice quarters. It's not like they're just living simply. And it's true. But it's not easy for women to live together. But it's very austere. And they have to be detached. And there's not a lot there to keep them detached. And so this one nun said, I'm surprised there hasn't been a murder here yet, because the friction is so intense sometimes. So I was feeling sorry for them. So in Krishna consciousness, you have to try to be detached until you come to a higher stage. And when you come to a higher stage, then detachment is natural. Now, Sringabhat is saying it's hard to become detached from children. Prabhupada said, if you're attached to your children, make them Krishna conscious. That's how you show your attachment. Right? Now, I was just thinking the other day, I was actually making some videos this morning, or I forget, I was talking about this. It's very interesting. In Vedic culture, if you have a son, at the age of 5, he goes to Gurukula, and he stays there till 25. That means you have a son for 5 years. That's it. 5 years. I mean, you still have a son your whole life, but after 5, he's gone. And you see him once in a while, because the Gurukul may not be in your village necessarily. Your daughter will get married at 12 or 13, right? So you have a son for 5 years and a daughter for 12 or 13 years. That's detached. So you're raising your children to become devotees. That's obvious. In that culture, it's obvious, right? You're not raising them to enjoy them, because you don't get much time with them, right? Your little young daughter, the girl just coming into puberty at 12 or 13 years old, this little precious girl that the father's so attached to, and she's gone at 13. It's over. That's detached. Right? But when you have children with that consciousness, to raise them to be devotees, you can do that. Or I don't know how easy it is to do, but it's easier. Right? And of course, then you can, you have 2 or 3 kids, and then, you have them when you're 25, and your first son is out of the house when he's 5. You have 2 boys, and by the age of 35, your household life is finished. Or if you have a girl, then, by the age of, another 8 years. So 43, you have 2 kids. When you're 43 years old, you're finished. Interesting, isn't it? I have to read some of these comments. The whole point of Krishna consciousness is to become attracted to Krishna. We become detached from everything. Yes. Prabhupada wrote me a letter, and you know what he said in the letter? Krishna Rupa. He said something that startled me, because when I got the letter, I wasn't very Krishna conscious. He said, the whole point of everything is to become absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. That's the whole point of everything. You know, sometimes we become busy and we don't have time to read and chant, and the whole point of everything is to think of Krishna, absorbed. That's it. The point is to become attracted to Krishna. Attraction is a stage above ruchi. It's a natural state you come to. You come to, on Monday, we're giving a class at 2:45 at my house on the stages of devotion. So now we've been discussing the stage of ruchi. Ruchi is taste, asakti is attraction, then bhava sakti is attachment. Taste and then attachment to the relationship, and then bhava, which is attraction. Actual attraction arises, like intense attraction. Rati or bhava, and then prema, love. So, right before you get to prema, there's attachment, attraction, and taste. So that's the goal, to get a taste, become attracted and attached. Right? That's the whole point. So if you hear regularly these pastimes, what happens? Become attached. If you serve the Sankirtan movement, what happens? Become attached. If you associate with advanced devotees, what happens? They're attached, you become attached. You can't, that's the goal. That's the whole point, you know. And so a lot of times when we talk about detachment, that's a little scary. Detachment is scary if you're not attached to Krishna. If you're attached to Krishna, it's not scary. It's natural, it's just what happens, right? I was living in Vrindavan about 20 years ago, and some of my friends would come there and they'd say, I don't understand how you can live here, it's so difficult. And I was thinking that when you live in Vrindavan and you have a taste for Vrindavan, it's not difficult at all. It's sweet. It's the sweetest place to be. They were saying, it's so difficult, and I was thinking in my mind, it's so difficult to live in the West, not in Vrindavan. But so when you have that taste, that you're living in Vrindavan in a little place, you can live in the West in a big place, you don't have a car, you don't have this or that, but you have taste. It's interesting. Did you notice in the West? I don't know if it's true for you, but in America, if it's true for you, but in America, all the devotees have nicer places than they do here, bigger places. On the average, the homes are bigger. And you come here, the homes are smaller. Our home here is exactly 50% of the size of our home in America. And not only is it 50% smaller, but we have about 80% less things than we do in America. It's not a problem, because this is Mayapur. You don't want things and you don't need a big place. It's just not the mentality, because there's the higher taste. But in the West, there's not that taste, so there's a tendency to want more things. And everybody has it and everybody's doing it. Funny. No one marries their children at the age of 13 these days. Yeah, it's not a good idea. So Vedic practice nowadays is neither legal nor practical. No, it's interesting because I was recently I was reading a book about all the Vedic practices, that you could understand the value of Vedic practices, but at the same time, when applied in our culture, they tend to backfire unless you have a cultural context to support it. What girl is ready to marry at the age of 13 in Western culture? That would be, of course it's illegal, but it just, it doesn't make sense to anybody. Even putting a child in a boarding school is very controversial. But that was the system. That was, the daughter, Prabhupada said, if a girl learns two things, how to cook and how to be chaste, then I'll get her married. He said that. Any girl learn these two things, how to be chaste and submissive, and how to cook, I'll get them married. So that's what they need to learn. That's the main thing they need to learn. Right? Do they learn to be chaste and submissive in university? No. So it's a different culture. Okay, they don't go to university. What if their husband divorces them? There's so many considerations. So culture is different. But I was just reflecting on that reality that in that culture, at 13 or 14, Prabhupada's wife was in total anxiety because her daughter had reached the age of 12 and she wasn't married. Did you know that? And I think she said something like, if you don't get her married within a year, I'll kill myself. It was something like that. Because they didn't want girls to grow up and have illicit connection with boys. So they get married like 8. Actually, I think Prabhupada was married at 8, and then they wait till like 12 or 13, and then they live together. So they get married very young. Seems so strange to us, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So weird. But it is weird to us, but actually you look at what's going on in society today, that's even more weird. Boyfriend, girlfriend, and that whole anxiety and pregnancy and abortion. So whether it can be done is another thing, but if you actually analyze it, it does solve a lot of problems. But it's not that we're going to go and recommend it, but you can see the reason it existed. Right? And then, your grandmother by the time you're 35 or 40. Yeah, you get married when you're 14, and you have your first kid at 14, your second kid at 16, your daughter, so when you're 30, your daughter is married and has a kid, so at 30 you're a grandmother. Yeah. Okay, let's read a little more. I want to read this next one. This is so nice. So then the mothers are saying, they're telling their boys, look, Krishna's come to our house for supper. Because they wouldn't eat. Separation. They said, no, look, he's come. So I don't know how they did it. It doesn't say. And then they could eat. Now listen to the next paragraph. And love of the gopis did oblige Krishna to appear in their houses for supper. And so it's being described that Krishna did come. Because the mothers wanted Krishna, their sons, to eat. And he said, look, Krishna's here, and then Krishna came. The love of the gopis did oblige Krishna to appear in their houses for supper. Visible only to his friends, Krishna would eat so that the boys would eat, and the parents would marvel at how the plate set for Krishna was mysteriously consumed. So Krishna, he had such affection for his friends, they couldn't eat because of separation. And so he would appear and the friends would see him, but then they would eat. That's love. These older Brajabasis held a secret within their hearts that they did not dare to share even between husband and wife. That secret was that their love for the mysterious son of Nanda Maharaj was greater than their love for their own offspring. Indeed, they would think, it seems that I love my son because he is Krishna's friend. How unusual. Isn't that unusual? The reason I love my son is because I love Krishna, and my son's Krishna's friend. And then that pastime with Krishna. He became the cowherd boy, so they actually had Krishna for a year. Yes? I just want to read a few more things. The cowherd boys interpreted Krishna's moroseness, and they gathered around him to cheer him up. Some spoke sweet words of encouragement, others massaged his bound belly, and still others fed him delicacies. "Oh friend, eat this special sweet rice, which was offered to our deity. It will give you strength." Another boy said, "If your mother became upset at your hiding a pot of yogurt, imagine how upset she will be if you conceal the mortar in some far-off place." Cowherd boys laughed heartily at their childhood jokes. It prompted Krishna to abandon his philosophical abstractions. Krishna was, anyway. While yogis meditated in secluded mountain caves to catch a glimpse of Paramatma within their hearts, these village gopis could see, touch, and play with Bhagavan at will. The difference between the two was that the yogis tried to subdue the all-powerful Lord by the strength of their austerities, while the gopas only thought of how to serve Krishna with hearts full of love. So the whole idea of these stories is you can see love in action, you can see really what it means, and then develop a desire to love Krishna the way these cowherd boys, the way Mother Yasoda, and the way the gopis love Krishna. The gopis and gopas of Gokul used to think, will we ever be as fortunate as Nanda and Yasoda? Will Krishna ever become our son? To fulfill this desire, Krishna devised a plan to become the Brajbasi's children in the future, when Lord Brahma would decide to test Krishna's power by stilling their cowherd boys and calves. Unknown even to Balaram, Krishna would expand to assume the form. So this is how Krishna fulfilled that desire. They wanted so much for Krishna to be their son, seeing these pastimes with Yasoda, that Krishna finally fulfilled it. Okay. So we'll just read one more thing. While Krishna was absorbed in Brajbasi Samadhi, the cowherd boy's frustration at his imprisonment surfaced in words critical of Mother Yasoda. My mother wouldn't tie me up like this. Not mine, she loves me too much. Let us make a delegation against such injustice. For a moment, Krishna rode the waves of his friend's critique and even shed a few tears to milk their sympathy. Poor Krishna, I will get a knife and cut this rope. Then the irrepressible love for his mother got the better of him, and rising to his feet like an orator, Krishna said, do not fault my mother. But his friends were not to be silenced so easily. We don't fault her, but how is it correct to treat a prince like a common criminal? Tell us. I will tell you. My mother's discipline is not due to a dearth, but rather to an abundance of affection for me. Because I am a prince, my conduct should be exemplary, and because she is queen, she should discipline her son in the same way as she would any subject. So now Krishna's appreciating being tied up. He's glorifying his mother for punishing him. Looking each boy in the eyes, and then beyond them to Gokul, and then beyond Gokul to the entire world, Krishna opened wide his arms and declared, you should all know well that there's no greater love than the love of Queen Yasoda. She is my greatest well-wisher and guide. If she wanted to shackle me in a cold dungeon forever and ever, I would take that as her kindness upon me. Please never let me hear another unkind word from any of you about the Queen of Braja. Hare Krishna. Amazing, huh? Yes? So we'll continue tomorrow. There's just a few more pages, and then it's like one more page. Well, might as well finish tonight, and then tomorrow we can start with Nalakuvera. That chapter is full of philosophy. Very interesting points. When Krishna submits to pure love, which is inspired by who he is, the cowherd of Braja, the special sweetness of his personality comes to the fore and subverts his godhood. Under this circumstance, Krishna's submission is also spontaneous, and so it is especially wonderful, for it is not weakened by formalities. In other words, Krishna's love for and submission to his devotees with spontaneous love is also spontaneous, and it reveals his unfettered personality. So in other words, we talk about spontaneous love. Krishna has spontaneous love also to his devotees. It works both ways. There's no formality there. So Krishna is showing his love fully without formality, and there showing fully with no formality. Yes? So spontaneous love of God and spontaneous love of God's devotees from Krishna's point of view. Okay. Okay, any questions? Any answers? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Okay, thank you for watching, everyone. And tomorrow night, be here, and we will continue this wonderful Lila. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.